Hey y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glace, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, and all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin-baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/reallife. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own 2 eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And before we get started, I want to give a shout out to all you lifers. Thank you for liking and sharing and listening and keeping us at the top of the charts in the world. Thank you to the convicts and patrons and subscribers through Apple who make this show run. Love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. And you have an extra bonus episode to be locked up next week. I think that puts us in the, 25 to 30 range, y'all, that you have locked up. And I hope you're enjoying all your benefits. Y'all also check out our Real Life, Real Crime Daily Show, which is now 4 days a week instead of 3 due to popular demand, and Bloody Angola, which comes out on Thursdays, which is another fire show that I do with my co-host Jim Chapman. So today, I'm going to do something a little bit different, but I think it needs to be done, and so just bear with me, okay? This case got comes out of Washington Parish, Louisiana. All right. And Washington Parish is about an hour and a half northeast of New Orleans. It's north of St. Tammany Parish, and it butts up against the Mississippi line. And it's kind of like in the corner of the boot of Louisiana. If you're looking at the maps, all the way to the right, top of the boot. Very rural parish. The only thing that I know of industry-wise they have there is the paper mill in the town of Bogalusa. But everything else is pretty much, it's really rural. And it's, more dairy farmers and people who make the living off the land, right? And, I have a lot of history there, a lot of time, a lot of different stories on real life, real crime that I tell, like the anhydrous ammonia plant that they blew up one night and stuff like that. But I knew the guys over there. I worked with them a lot through the years. And even when I was with the state police and when I was with Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, because it seemed we had the same turds that would come back and forth and do the same dirty deeds, if you will. But it's really small, y'all, and the sheriff's office is small, but they're good people, right? It's country. And in 1995, it was even more so. And it's pretty developed now, but nothing like Livingston Parish or anything like that. It's still really country, really out of the way. But there was a family who lived there who owned a dairy farm, and it was on a road called Star Hill on Highway 438 in the far northern part of Washington Parish, y'all, almost to the Mississippi line. And it was owned by Bobby and Lander Spears. Okay, and now Lander and Bobby have been married for many, many years. They had a very successful dairy farm. I think it was a couple 100 acres. They milked cows every day, but they also had a bar on one corner of their property, and a bar. And my mama always said two things you never have to go far to find in South Louisiana, and that's a bar and a church. But they had a bar on one corner of their property, and they would work that at night. And they had some help that would come in and help them milk the cows and run the dairy and all that. But all accounts, they're successful people. Everybody loved them. They had been there, their entire lives. Everybody knew them, as is the case in most of these small parishes. But just really, really good people. And they said that, Lander Spears didn't have any enemies. And Miss Bobby was just a sweetheart and a good lady. But they had children, and one of them's name was Shanda, Shanda. Okay, and of course she was Spears when she was growing up, and the same last name as her parents. And she was well liked, and she was a cheerleader in school, and she even won whatever beauty contest they have for whatever festival they have. And I told y'all in past episodes, every parish has their own festival, it seems like. And I think theirs was like the Cow Festival or something like that. I can't remember. But Shanda grew up and, like I said, was pretty and well liked, and just a all American girl, right? And then she would graduate, and I think within 2 years she had her first child, and then that didn't work out. The relationship didn't work out. Then she had another child, and then another child. Now, when she hadn't had her last child, she was with her significant other, and his last name was Crain. Now, she took the last name and, lived with him, et cetera. But now she wasn't doing too much, if you will. She was working odd jobs. She worked for her parents, at the dairy, and she would go in and milk the cows in the morning. She handled their financial books. There was another store that she worked for that she handled some financial books for. And, you know, they said she was a pretty good mom, right? She's raising her kids. And I think her oldest was like 8 on this day that I'm going to tell you about. And anyway, she, you know, by all accounts was just a pretty decent person, right? And a decent mom, and doing odd jobs and trying to please her significant other, if you will. And on Tuesday, January 25th, she took her kids, dropped them off at the school bus or whatever, but her one daughter she had with her had an ear infection, and she had to go to the dairy to milk the cows. Now, she arrives at her parents' house and on Star Hill, and she said she went inside and she brought her daughter inside and put her in the bed with her father. And and then she went out to the barn and milked the cows, and then came back in and got her daughter to leave, and they left and went and ran some errands or something, and then she was returned to her parents' house. Now, the kid's still in the car, right? And she returns to the parents' house, and she sees a guy on the roadway, which is one of her parents' hired hands. And he tells her, he says, "Look, I looked in the door. I mean, your parents weren't up, and I looked in the door, and I saw something bad." And so she goes to the house with him, and they look through the door, and the door's locked, right? They look through the door and sees her mama down in the hallway with blood. She hauls ass to the convenience store off the road and calls 911. Now, the cops show up, and they go in, and they find a pretty gruesome scene. The mama's down in the hallway, lots of blood. And then if it couldn't get any worse, they go in to her father's bedroom. They slept in separate bedrooms, y'all. The mom and the dad did. Father's bedroom, and he's in the bed, and he's dead. Okay, gunshot wound to the head, and there were several more bullet holes in the wall around the bed. No firearm located, nothing like that. She's all freaked out and crying, and you know, just a bad scene, right? And now, through the deputies, and the first deputy arrived on the scene, I mean, he knew the family, right? Had been there forever. But he saw all the carnage and everything, and the detectives come out to work, and they take her statement, and she said, "Hey, came over this morning, put my daughter in the bed with my dad because she's got an earache. I went out and milked cows. I know my parents were up late last night dealing with the bar, and came back in and got her and told them I would be back, and left, and I came back, and the rest is what I told y'all." But she wasn't considered a suspect or anything. One of the reasons why is because two of her daddy's relatives, one being a brother, had been murdered within, I think like 6 weeks of this scene that they're seeing now. And so they're thinking, holy shit, that somebody's trying to execute this whole family. The detectives take her statement, and they don't have any reason to disbelieve it or anything, but they have these other open cases, and they're like, holy shit, this has to be related, right? I always tell y'all there's no such thing as a coincidence in homicide cases like that. And for 3 members of one family to be basically murdered or executed, actually 4 members, to be executed in a short period of time, yeah, that's what I would have looked at too first as an investigator. But kind of, they worked the scene, the process of the scene, like I told you. The bullet holes in the bed around Landon Spears. Now, Landon Spears, it was Landon Spears Sr. He's 58 years old, and her mom was Bobby Spears, who was 51, okay? one of the things they worked the scene, that there's no shell casings. Right? What does that tell you? That it's going to be a revolver, right? And it came to light through the investigation that Landon Spears had bought a revolver shortly before his murder because, like I told you, his brother had been murdered and another family member had been murdered. And I guess he was out of fear for himself. And he even had a Washington Parish deputy, off-duty deputy, show him how to fire it and stuff like that and be safe with it and what have you. Well, that firearm's missing, okay? There's no signs of a house being robbed when they're working the scene. It's not really anything disturbed or anything. It's not. I mean, it's just a straight up execution. No shell casings around Bobby Spears, and she's been shot multiple times, and she's laying in the hallway. So it appeared like the shooter, shot shot the dad first, and then the mom was asleep in another room. She got up when she heard the gunshots, and she runs into the hallway, and then she's summarily executed. So they're working it, and of course they find out about the pistol that he had bought, and they also found out that, guess what? The phone lines. Now, back then, y'all, was all landlines. Cell phones were barely out at all, and I can guarantee you they weren't in Washington Parish. The phone lines to the house had been cut. Okay, major red flag, right? But they go on, and they get a call from the local bank, and they go in and they talk to the bankers, and the bankers are like, hey, somebody's been writing checks, forging checks off the Spears account. And we're pretty sure we know who it is. We're pretty sure it's Chandra's handwriting on it. And y'all remember she handled the money for it, okay, for them. And she drained the account down from thousands of dollars down to just like $100 or $200. Turned out that she also had an addiction to playing video poker, which had been legal in the state of Louisiana for maybe a year or two, and her parents had put video poker machines in their bar. Now, back then, any place that sold alcohol or had a license to sell alcohol could get a video poker machine. And look, it was a big money maker, y'all, for these establishments. They got a cut off of every dollar that was spent in a video poker machine. But she was gambling and didn't have the means to pay for it. So they start to put her on the radar, right? And about 5 days after the murders, they bring her in and they start to question her, this time as a suspect, right? And she ultimately, in her words, and I mean, you can go watch this. There's been a TV show on it on Snapped, and it's been covered. They call it the video poker murders. There was a lot of news coverage at the time, which of course it would be in any case where somebody murders their parents. But they figured the motive was that she wanted the money from her parents. Now, another business that she worked at where she did some of the accounting for also, they reported also that, they checked their shit and she had been forging checks on them also. So they bring her in and they question her, and first she denies it. Then, y'all, guess what? She breaks down and she tells the truth. She told them that she went over there and, like I said, put the daughter in the bed. She went out and milked the cows, came back in. Now, this is cold-hearted. Came back in, got her daughter, put her daughter in the car, left the door to the car open, went back inside. And that pistol I told you about her dad had just bought was laying, it was a revolver, was laying on the floor on the side of his bed. She said, I picked it up and I shot him. But guess what? She missed. And imagine if you're sleeping and someone shoots you and they miss, how loud it has to be in that room. And naturally, he would have sat up, And I think there was evidence of like 3 different bullet holes. So maybe she missed twice. I'm not sure. But she said, I missed. And then she said, I shot him again. And they said, how many times? And she said, I don't know. Right. And then they asked about her mama. And she said, well, I turned around and mama was coming running out of the bedroom and I shot her too. And they said, how many times? And she said, I don't remember. And then they said, what'd you do with the gun? And she said, I threw it in the oxidation pond by the dairy barn. Now, y'all, an oxidation pond is basically just a shit pond that, where all the stuff gets washed into, et cetera, like a settling pond. I'm going to kind of paraphrasing for you because I want to get to what I want to play for you in a minute. She goes back and gets in the car and leaves, right? Well, then they get to talk to her about her video poker debts and the gambling and writing the bad checks and all that. She confessed to everything. I mean, like just straight up. Never said her husband was with her or anyone was with her. I mean, matter of fact, she denied that. No one with her but her kid. Now, how cold-blooded it is to kill your parents, but you do it when your kids are sitting in a car waiting and you come back and, whatever. So they lock her up, 2 counts of first-degree murder. She's looking at the death penalty, and sometime later, whether 6 weeks or before the trial, she decides she wants another meeting with detectives. She gets it. They go to interview again, and she says, She said, I'm recanting my statement. I didn't kill my parents. My husband did it. And, I didn't do it. And I lied about everything. Right? Well, guess what? That happens, and it's happened a million times in my career where you get the confession, you get the juice out of them, and then you lock them up, and then later on they're like, holy fuck, what did I actually say? Why did I say that? I mean, they said it because it's the truth, but they're like, holy shit, I'm looking at the death penalty, and I told on myself, right? So what did she do? She recants it. Now she tries to blame it on her husband, then she tried to blame it on her brother, and they was proven like that they couldn't have been there. They were alibied out and stuff like that. So she took it to trial. Now, Tommy D'Amico was one of her attorneys. You've heard me talk about Tommy in past episodes, or Thomas D'Amico. He's an excellent criminal defense attorney. I've known him for years, and she was lucky to have him, okay? And because I know Tommy's not cheap, and maybe he got appointed because it was a death penalty case. And look, they tried. They were going for the death penalty. And it just went on. Basically her defense was that her husband did it. She didn't do it. The cops coerced a confession out of her, basically did everything but beat her, and including bringing in a preacher deputy that ultimately, helped to get the confession out of her. It doesn't matter, y'all. You confess. She told the details of the crime, in graphic detail. Go watch that Snapped episode, and you can actually hear her confession tapes or see her confession. And, of course, Tommy tries to attack the confession and have it thrown out, saying it was coerced and all that. He does what defense attorneys do, and you can't fault him. It's his job. And the jury didn't believe it, okay? And even though Tommy was like, the motive, right? Which you don't have to prove motive in the state of Louisiana, but the state had put on that she was getting part of a life insurance policy. I think it was a $300,000 policy, but she was only getting $50,000 off of it. But that land, the dairy barn and the land and the acreage and the cows and the tractors and everything that goes with it, shit, that's worth a lot of money, probably $1 million. But even though she would only got a split of it, to a person who's kiting checks or writing bad checks and stealing checks and to feed their gambling addiction, that's a lot of money. All right. But her defense was, no, my parents would have given me anything. And, they gave me the moon. They would have walked on the moon for me. Well, guess what? Evidently not. And anyway, it was an 8-man and 4-woman jury. And it only took them 4.5 hours before they came back with a guilty verdict. All right. Then it goes to the death penalty phase of the trial. Now, that's where they tell about mitigating circumstances and everything else and why she shouldn't be put to death. And ultimately, the family did not want her to receive the death penalty, even though the state still went for it. And the jurors, I mean, that's a pretty heavy load to put on anybody. And they deliberated for 3 hours, and they were deadlocked on death penalty. Now, of course, the death penalty's got to be unanimous, 12 out of 12. So that's just the way that it was. And so she gets sentenced. It's automatic sentence by the judge to life in prison ×2 without the possibility of parole. Never getting out. It's over with. Now, of course, she has a right to an appeal. And I'm pretty sure every convict in the world, I guess some of them, well, I know Ashley Posey missed her filing deadline. You have a year, y'all. And when they sentence you, they tell you have a year for file for post-conviction relief, file your appeals, da-da-da-da. And I believe she fired Thomas D'Amico. I don't know why. Maybe she couldn't afford him, whatever deal. But she goes to prison at Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women in St. Gabriel. And guess what? She misses her fucking filing deadline. Now, look, you're in prison for a year. You ain't got shit else to do. You're convicted for first-degree murder ×2. And, why don't you file your appeal? Well, she had filed one. But it was after the year had passed by, so she automatically gets denied. No appeal, you're fucked. I mean, you had nothing else to do, you're locked up. And you got plenty of jailhouse lawyers and everybody that are appellate lawyers that would have helped you. But she missed her date, so when she finally did file it, they automatically denied her, right? Well, the years go by, and Shanda seems to be, pretty squared away inmate. And I never really got that. They join the programs and they do this and they do that. Well, you know what? You have one of two choices. Either you get with the fucking program or you do hard time, right? They say, do your time, don't let your time do you. Well, Shanda wasn't letting her time do her. She got with the program and she, gets certificates for this, for Toastmaster and upholstery and all this stuff. And, but you know what? I mean, people give them accolades and all these convicts that get all this stuff. They give them all these props. I'm like, what the fuck? What else are they going to do? They go fight the system and stay in the hole for the rest of their life. And now some of them are that dumb. Some of them choose to do that. But I submit to you that if my ass was locked up, I'd take every program I could just to pass the time. But the kicker is this, y'all. She's in and she's down for life. And she starts this shit. She's maintaining her innocence. She's saying she was railroaded, that the cops railroaded her, they got a false confession, they threatened her, and then all this bullshit. She said, I did not kill my parents, right? And she's sticking to it. Now, she even gets a LinkedIn. Now, how the fuck you get a LinkedIn when you're in prison? I don't know, but I'll read it to you. It says, on January 21st, 1997, I was convicted of first-degree murder despite substantial proof of a coerced confession that ultimately led to my arrest, a severe lack of forensic evidence. I was found guilty and sentenced to 2 life without parole. Though I continue to maintain my innocence, I have spent 27 years incarcerated at Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women in Baton Rouge. I am currently 56 years old. Y'all forgot to mention that exactly in the spot in the pond where she said she threw the pistol, they had to drain the pond. It took like 3 days, and guess what? The pistol was there, okay? And there's not going to be any DNA or fingerprints on the pistol that's been sitting in the water. But she confessed, right? And nobody else did it. I mean, she tried to blame it on other people. They were excluded. And after the fact, after she's like, "Oh fuck, I'm gonna get the needle," but she goes on, and then like I told you, she missed her appeal. Then now she's adamant this whole time that she's Miss Innocent. Okay, and on February 3rd of 2022, I'll read you this article. Then I got to play you what the stuff I want to play you. It says convicted double murderer Shanda Crain has filed a request for Governor John Bel Edwards to grant her clemency. She was convicted of 1995 murders of her parents at their Star Hill residence on Highway 438 in far northern Washington Parish. Her parents were Lander Spears Sr. and Bobby Spears. The case became notorious, and her 1997 trial was widely covered by Louisiana media. All right, so now she's taken to the governor, right? I'm innocent. And I mean, okay. And you're innocent, but you confess, right? But she's got all these different groups. Go online and Google Shanda Spears, and they are taking this shit hook, line, and sinker, right? They're defending her. They wanted her exonerated, and they're petitioning the governor for a clemency hearing. It's just absolutely. I'm looking at all these different groups as we're talking, y'all, and I can't believe she has this many people duped. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to take you to the clemency hearing, and I want you to listen to it. It's a little bit long. I'm going to talk over some of the parts of it because they need to be talked over. And afterwards, I'm going to tell you what, and I'm not going to say their names. A couple of lifers were in prison. I'm not going to say how or why, whether they were working there or convicts or whatever, but we're in prison with Shanda, and I'm going to tell you the real Shanda, according to them. Now, of course, I wasn't there, and I have no direct knowledge, but I'll tell you what was told to me. But first of all, all these groups bring enough political pressure where the clemency board, the board that has the power, they're appointed by the governor of the state of Louisiana, actually decides they'll hear her case, and that's very rare, y'all. I mean, she's double convicted murder. So I'm gonna play it. Now, listen, there's some pauses and stuff like that, and this is on the Zoom thing, so just bear with me, and it's important, okay?
Ms. Crain, I've reviewed your case very carefully, and what I'd like to do is just tell me or what happened to your parents? What happened to your parents?
Wasn't a trick question.
On January the 25th, 1995, my husband and I had devised a plan to steal some money out of their home, and my parents ended up murdered. I killed my parents in the process.
Well, you're skipping over a whole lot of the process, Ms. Crain. So I want to know specifically who shot and killed each of your parents.
I didn't shoot my parents, but I'm responsible because I left the door open and I was there and I was part of it. And I'm so sorry.
I don't hear that yet. Ms. Crain, there's been a lot of discrepancies in your statements over the years. There's actually a confession. We have a police report, and there's a confession where you acknowledge shooting both of your parents. Initially, you blamed your husband for the killing, but he, although lie detector tests are admissible, he passed a lie detector test, but more importantly, his alibi was thoroughly investigated and it checked out.
That was
and
forced
when you
to confess,
were told
y'all.
by the police that your husband was not a viable suspect, you then blamed your younger brother. Isn't that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I did a lot of lying back then.
You think?
I understand that, but you might be doing a lot of lying today. Yeah. And I will tell you, one of the things that's important to me as a remember is the honesty of the person that I am making a decision on.
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband was never charged with this offense. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, he wasn't.
And so, despite your claims that he was part of this plot for robbery, there was no evidence to substantiate that, and he was never charged with any crime. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And in fact, you were the one who threw the weapon in the oxidation pond, and that's where they recovered the weapon. Is that not correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And in fact, you have been stealing money from your parents to support a gambling habit. Is that not correct?
Yes, ma'am, that was correct, along with his drug habit.
Well,
We're
again,
both taking money.
ma'am, you keep trying to blame somebody else and bring somebody else into this. He didn't
No, ma'am.
kill your parents. You
No,
shot
ma'am.
both your parents.
Yes, ma'am, I killed my parents.
Now, you started off by saying, well, I feel responsible because I left the door open. My question to you today is, did you, in fact, shoot and kill both of your parents?
Yes, ma'am.
What the fuck?
Why?
There was a lot going on with me and my husband, and I'm not blaming him. I'm just trying to give you some type of foundation to how it got to that point. I'm not trying to put the blame off on him, but he was very abusive to me and my oldest daughter, and he wanted money. I wanted money. I was trying to please him. I was trying to just
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdown scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Hey ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through premenopause, menopause, and while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone support and supplement, it's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
Make sure everybody just didn't get hurt in the whole situation. And in the process, I ended up hurting the two people who means the most to me. And I am so, so sorry.
It's great. Stop it. First of all, you were the one, I think there was like $30,000 embezzled from your family. You were the one who cut the phone lines to their house so the bank couldn't call them to inform them of discrepancies in their banking account. You were the one who did that.
Yes, ma'am, I did that.
And then you went to their house. You took your daughter because she was sick, didn't go to school. You took her to your parents' house where she fell asleep. And then prior to going in the house to kill your parents, you went in the house, you brought your daughter out of the house, and then you went and you murdered both your parents. So let's not sugarcoat what happened.
No, ma'am.
Okay, you're blaming it on an abusive relationship, but blamed your younger brother.
I don't recall blaming my younger brother because he was offshore.
Again, Ms. Crain, we have a complete record. I have every police report. I have every statement that you have ever made in connection with this case. And again, when confronted with the information that your husband could not have committed this crime, you then said it was your younger brother.
I don't dispute the record, no, ma'am.
Because you lied so much.
I just don't recall that.
Because you lied so
much. And my question is, how could you shoot and kill both of your parents?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what she said.
How could you shoot and kill both of your parents?
Saying thinking clearly is not even better words. I was scared.
Of?
My husband.
Got to come up with something.
All right. We're going to move forward, Ms. Crain. I have looked at your prison history, and it looks good on paper. It really does look good. You've had, your counsel said less than 10 disciplinary write-ups, but according to the record...
Yeah, I'm going to fast forward to this part. But all it does is talks about some write-ups that she had and some school shit she did and that she's mentoring other people. She's a model prisoner, basically. Now, remember, she's got all these clemency groups, all these people around the country signing petitions, doing all this shit to get her because she's innocent, right? And then she maintained her innocence, and then she went in there and they called her and she flipped like a little bitch. And she's like, yeah, you guess what? I did fucking do it. Oh, but you blamed it on your husband. Yeah. But he was alibied out. Yeah. But then you blamed it on your brother. Well, I don't really remember blaming it on my brother, blah, blah, blah. But basically she admits that she shot him now. Now that automatically fucking should deny you for this clemency hearing. You've been lying the whole fucking time. But here, you got to listen to the rest of it. I'm just skipping over some shit about her upholstery and Toastmaster awards and all this great shit she's done in prison, right? But they get back in that ass here in a minute. So let me get back to it.
And I just let anyone tell me what to do.
She explained why she did it.
Your husband told you to kill your parents?
Yes, ma'am.
Said that's some Zoom pauses, y'all. Now she's back to blaming it on her husband. It just takes a second. It freezes up. I don't know why.
Your husband was not on the scene when your parents were killed, were they not? Your husband was not on the scene when your parents were killed, is that correct?
He was, but the police report says he wasn't. I covered for him, Miss Jackson. God. I took the blame because I felt totally responsible. It was my fault.
By the way, he's dead.
Well, let me read some of the details that you gave the police, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hate to have to do this, but because of your lack of candor, I feel compelled to do that. On the morning of Wednesday, January 25th, 1995, at approximately 7 o'clock, Ms. Crain advised that she drove up to the residence of her mother and father, accompanied by her daughter, Brittany. Arrived at the residence, was met at the door by her father, who let Ms. Crain and her daughter into the home through the back door. Those were the back door. This was the second door from the west wall of the residence. After entering the residence, Ms. Crain left her daughter with her father and proceeded to the dairy bar to make preparations for that morning's milking. She stated that she won't get into the milking because that's not. But she returned to her parents' home, entered through the same door she had entered previously, went to her father's bedroom, and awakened her daughter without disturbing her father, who had apparently going back to bed. She took her daughter to the car, placed the child inside the vehicle. Leaving the child there, she returned inside the residence, entered her father's room, picked up his weapon, which he kept beside his bed, fired one shot in the direction of her father. She stated that shot apparently missed her father because he was awakened by the first shot and started to rise from his prone position. At that point, Miss Crain looked directly at me, meaning the officer. Mr. Harrell, my daddy saw me. Miss Crain stated that she fired the weapon again, but could not advise how many times she shot. She stated that she then went to her mother's room, which is located a few feet away across the hall. Upon entering her mother's room, Miss Crain stated, I wanted to shoot Mama in the leg, so I aimed low. I asked Miss Crain how many times she fired the weapon at her mother, and she replied, I don't know. I heard Mama scream, and I run out of the house. I asked Miss Crain if she knew she had hit her mama, and she replied, no. I asked Miss Crain to try to explain to me why she felt she needed to shoot her mother and father. And then she replied, I thought that if I could get rid of Mama and Daddy, that all of my problems would be solved. I asked Miss Crain to explain which of her problems, and she stated, my husband was very jealous of my parents, and I thought if they were out of the way, then Brent would love her. I asked Miss Crain to continue with her statement, and she complied. She stated that after she left the residence, she took the child to Tim's house, her sister-in-law, and returned to the barn to finish milking. I asked her where the weapon was, And she responded, in my coveralls. I asked her where the weapon was at that time. She said, in my coveralls. I asked her to tell me about the weapon. She replied, I threw it in the pond. I asked her which pond, and she said the one by the barn, the oxidation pond. Got emotional, and he left the room, and he settled down, and that was kind of the extent of the interview. That's what you told the police. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Your husband was there. You didn't tell him, told them that you felt like your parents were a problem and you need to eliminate to solve your own problem. Those were your words.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so my question is, you keep wanting to blame domestic violence. There's no evidence that there's been any domestic violence.
Are y'all there talking to her about her background?
What did your husband do?
He drove a truck for a florist company.
Listen, looking at your police report, starting in 1991, you had theft by checks, worthless checks at 91, issuing worthless checks again in 1991, 1992, issuing worthless checks. It goes on and on. Aggravated assault. What was that about in 1994?
Yes.
Aggravated assault.
Yeah, 2 counts of aggravated assault, and you pled guilty.
I can't remember.
1994.
I'm not quite sure about.
Mr. Roche, if I could.
And now her dumbass attorney
we
is
had
going to interject.
questions about that, and of course, as the board is aware, we don't get a copy of the pre-clemency.
And your
report,
client
but
lied her ass
looking
off to
through
you,
the
so
records,
he
we
doesn't know
weren't
anything
able
about
to
it.
verify that. I understand the records that the institution has as well don't indicate that prior charge. So I don't know if that's a mistake in the pre-clemency report.
It said that you pled guilty to 1 count and was fined $100 on 5 days in the parish jail. So that was a conviction.
And the lawyer knows nothing about it.
Now,
Again, we don't have a copy of the pre-clemency report, so if that's a mistake in the pre-clemency report, we can't challenge.
okay. But what I'm saying is, kind of part, you had financial problems for many years before you killed your parents.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did.
Basically, you had embezzled over $30,000 from your parents, and you cut the telephone lines so they couldn't be notified that their checking account had been compromised. Could this been a motive for killing your parents?
No, sir. My parents would give me anything. They just wouldn't give me any money to give my husband.
So why would you embezzle $30,000 from their checking account if your parents would give you anything?
I don't recall it being that much, sir. I did write some checks on their account because I paid the bills for them, and I did.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crain. Thank you, Ms.
Liar, liar, and they're cutting her off. Good for you, parole board.
Ms. Crain, today is a day that I would expect you to be honest about everything.
She's never been honest in her life.
Because the first step in rehabilitation is to take full responsibility for what you have done. And as late as in a statement to parole and probation in 2022, just last year, you said I did not kill my parents.
Yes, sir.
Most important step as far as I'm concerned in your rehabilitation is that you accept responsibility for your actions and show that you have been rehabilitated and that you will not act such a manner ever again.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Not done that in your statements, and you have not done that today. Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Ms. Crain, you've done some wonderful programs in prison. Your accomplishments are very great. What have you done specifically to address your gambling addiction?
They don't actually have a program here, but I entered the substance abuse, the living in balance, because it is about addiction. And addiction has the same elements in any form. And so I attended that particular class, and I attend an RDAP, which is a residential drug abuse program that we have in-house with the reentry court mentors weekly.
Blah, 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 blah,
so
blah.
that I can just stay abreast on those things.
Did you also have a drug drug problem?
No, ma'am, I didn't have a drug problem.
I had a parent-kid murdering problem.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions. We'll hear from the folks who are here in support. Could we hear from the Parole Project?
Y'all, I'm fast forward for this part, but I do want you to hear her daughter get on here. It's quite spectacular. This is her daughter, y'all.
Go ahead. Can you just find a place?
She just said she didn't have on anything but her underwear, and she's on Zoom.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Listen to this. This is spectacular.
Okay. And go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us your relationship to Ms. Crain, and then tell us what you'd like us to know.
Hi, I'm Megan Crain. I am Shanda's youngest daughter. And what I would like for y'all to know is that I witnessed the abuse that took place before all this happened. I watched my daddy drown my mama. I watched my mama be forced to scrub the floor with a toothbrush. I have studied this case since I was a kid. And I can also tell you, too, that the police, that it's unfortunate that the people we look up to are supposed to protect and serve us. There are dirty ones, and that's just a fact, because I personally was forced to plead guilty to a charge that I was innocent from, and I can prove that. But I also can tell you this. I don't care. Paper can say anything. My mother is innocent, because my mother was forced, and from mental abuse perspective, she was scared to death of my daddy. I watched him take her head and put her in water, and she would beg and pick her head back up. My mama was scared of my daddy. My mama ain't a murderer. My mama is a survivor. My mama is a woman of God, and she's the best mother that I could ever have. And I'm proud of my mama. And I don't care how it all looks, because guess what? My mama, it may all look like my mama was part of it, but all it was, my mama was seeking love. And she allowed the devil to make her do things, and it put her in a bad spot, and where fear took over, and it made her not only lose her husband, she lost her mama and daddy, she lost her life and her children. And my mama walked up in there, and she was the first time ever in jail, and she was told she would never get out. And when I tell you my mama's done more for me in them walls than anybody, you better believe everything I'm telling you. And when I tell you them police that are involved in all that, they are dirty, because they've reached out to me in the process. Mike Barnago, he reached out to me recently, and when I got to questioning him, guess what? That man never told me nothing. I've studied this case. I went up there. They've got files that are missing, and I understand you're going to stop me. Hey,
ma'am, you need to wrap it up for us, please.
I understand you about to
She's still going
stop me, because I wanted to stop you when you was questioning my mama. But let me tell you, she is a victim.
Thank you, ma'am.
They cut her ass off, right?
I have not lived my life at 95, and I want to.
Sorry.
They turned her off, y'all.
Could we hear from you?
All right, y'all. I'm gonna fast forward to the end to the votes, because I got some shit to say. It's important.
Mr. Crain took a polygraph test, passed, at which point she then changed the story to it was a Landon Crain who was the person who committed the murder, till she ultimately then confessed to the murder changed it to she participated in the murder and has actually come now full circle to blaming now her deceased husband again for the murder in this case. I think that Ms. Crain's answers have shown that she is not willing to accept responsibility for the murder that she was convicted of, for the murder that she had ultimately admitted to before then changing her story.
So this is the DA saying his reasons why she's full of shit too, right? And the daughter going off, they had to cut her off, and then
I guess it's the second time, and I think that this shows a lack of ability to be a part of the rehabilitative process if she cannot have candor with this board or show any type of acceptance of responsibility for the murder in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Crain, is there a statement you'd like to make before we turn it over to Ms. McCray?
Yeah, listen to this beauty.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere thanks and gratitude to this honorable board for allowing me this opportunity. I realize that this opportunity is not due me and that it is a privilege. I've sat here and I've listened to people support me and speak about my accomplishment and the good I've done. As humbled as I am, I need this board and anyone who is listening to know that all the good I have done will never, ever overshadow the hurt and pain that I have caused others.
Like
My
the bullet
actions
holes you
rob
put in your
so
parents.
many people of many things.
Yeah.
Please know there's not a day that goes by that I'm not reminded of this and regret what I did. I look back at the person I was 29 years ago. I was selfish, lost, abused, individual who had no direction. I took the life of two beautiful people who would have walked on the moon for me. I had no regard for others and only thought about myself. I was a liar and a thief who only wanted the validation and love of my husband. My sole purpose in life was to please him. Fast forward 29 years later, that person no longer exists. God, the Department of Correction, self-motivation, family and friend support have helped transform that person into a woman who has direction, self-esteem, and knows her self-worth. I know the value of family, others, and myself. I've worked hard not to erase the damage that I've caused, but to become the best version of me that I can be in order not to ever cause anyone else pain and hurt. I truly hope that my parents are looking down and are proud of the woman that I have become. If I could go back and undo what I did, I would, but I can't. However, I can move forward by continuing to give of myself to others and the community. I stand before you today full of regret and remorse, requesting that you grant me clemency. And at time computation, I'm asking for the opportunity to give back to my family and the society that I took from. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. McCray.
Thank you.
I say that I just her little side attorneys saying whatever.
Shows that you've changed.
Now this is the board
What
denying her.
it shows me is that you're manipulative. Haven't changed. Because you haven't owned what you've done. And so for me, I not today. I cannot today in good conscience vote for your commutation or to recommend a commutation because I don't think you fully dealt with the issues that brought you here. And I don't think that your rehabilitation is complete because you still are unable to accept responsibility for your actions. So my vote today would be to deny.
Mr. Rushing. Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, I'd like to take personal privilege. Professor Lancaster, Ms. McCray, and her co-counsel did an excellent job today. I really enjoyed their presentations, and they did.
He's talking about our
an
lawyer and
excellent
two law students that helped.
Ms. Crain, I like a full responsibility for your actions. Overwhelming opposition in the legal community, law enforcement, the DA's office, And I have to say it again. In light of responsibility, as far as I'm concerned, is to show that you have not rehabilitated yourself. So I agree with Ms. Jackson, and my vote is to deny your request.
Mr. Freeman?
Ms. Crain, one thing is I think you're finally starting to admit to guilt, but now you need to learn to deal with it. I just don't think you're ready yet. I also vote to deny.
All right, Ms. Crain, so you've received 3 votes to deny your application for clemency this morning. I do agree with my colleagues. I think you're on the cusp. It's just not today. My vote today also is to deny. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there you have it, y'all. That's the hearing. Now, I know this is running long. I want to tell y'all about her in prison. Now, this came from a direct source. Certainly, again, I have no direct knowledge because I wasn't there. But I've got some responses since this video came out. And the reason I'm doing it is because of the video and some the lifers out there that know this lady. I was going to say lady. Know this woman who butchered her parents. And, you know, she's got all these people believing again that she's innocent and that, to the point that she gets a clemency hearing. Shit, that doesn't happen, y'all. I mean, she said it's not a right. It's a privilege. But guess what? It is a privilege, and you got your fucking ass denied. But so they talk about her young daughter. They talk about, I mean, they spent time with this lady, okay? And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want her to know who these people are either. But they say, and I don't have any proof of this, that one of our daughters committed a crime just to be in prison next to her, and that, y'all, in female prisons generally, they don't have the gangs. They have adapt a fake family situation, like a dad and a mom, and they'll have kids that they have in their family underneath them. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's said that the daughter went in and, you know, would put her hair in pigtails and would try to go around Shanda, and Shanda was embarrassed of her and would shoo her away, stuff like that. They also said that Shanda had a bag dagger, and y'all, a bag dagger is a prison expression for women who are gay for the stay, basically, and they hook up with whomever they will that'll buy them stuff out of the canteen, and that her bag dagger's name was Bob. Again, I don't have any direct knowledge. I'm just repeating shit that was sent to me. And, you know, whatever, it just goes on and on. There's one person who did pest control, evidently saw Bob performing oral sex on Chandra and stuff like that. They said that Chandra steals any and everything she can from the prison to hustle for things and friends, and then a lot of the administration know about it, but let her go because she's intelligent and can do administrative work, and that she's very sweet and soft-spoken voice and charismatic personality has been continually mastered through being the whole thing about the Toastmaster speaker and president, blah, blah, blah. She said that how she says she's a good Christian woman, but that she only really gets involved in anything that would help her get what she wants out of administration. And she never, ever, capitals, attended any Christian organization or church services. And she's been known to tell people that she has an aversion to Christians because it was a Christian minister who forced a false confession out of her after her parents, and she was abused and grief-stricken while being interrogated, whatever. And anyway, it just goes on and on. But it's crazy. Supposedly she gets all kinds of people to send her money for the canteen and stuff like that. And, you know, that she's a master manipulator and a soulless monster, and nothing has changed in her, and it never will. There's a lot more stuff in here that I'm not even going to read, not because it's not true, just because it is what it is. So there you go, y'all. I know the Pearl Board got it correct. It's funny, right? She goes in there and is trying to blame it on her husband. Again, her husband is now dead, and it was proven not only was he not at the scene, he was driving a truck route. Right. So she goes in, she's coming back full circle to blame her husband again. And they get her in there and they call her on it. And then she changed her story again and she admits that she did it. What the fuck? Right. And whatever. So I never did name, this episode, but I'm going to call it Bag Dagger, just for fun. And so that's how, it's how evil exists, right? You brutally executed your parents after cutting the phone lines because you were in trouble for $30,000 and you thought you might get $50,000 in life insurance money. We'll conclude this episode. Love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Thank you for sharing, liking. Go leave us a review. Go to the Real Life Real Crime community out. Oh, you know what I'm going to tell you about? I got to tell you about this guy as my really good friend. And y'all know when I retired from law enforcement that I became an expert in all U.S. federal courts and law enforcement matters, an expert witness. And so I met this attorney. I worked exclusively for defense attorneys. And I met this attorney, Thomas Davenport Jr., okay? And he is a bulldog. He's out of Alexandria, Louisiana, but he practices all over the state of Louisiana. He actually even teaches law school, okay? But the reason I'm telling you about him is, you remember the episode War where I told you about the hotel where they left all the pubic hairs in my bed? They broke into my room and did all that. Well, Tommy handled that case for me also, and he busted their ass. Well, I'll put it at that. But I've worked a lot of criminal cases with him over the years, and he just absolutely fights for his people like nobody I've ever seen. Now, I love Jasper Brock out of Livingston Parish, but he works strictly in the Livingston Parish area on criminal. Thomas Davenport does criminal. He does personal injury. He does everything. It's a one-man show, but he turns people away all the time because he wants to work on the cases that he believes in. So if y'all need a lawyer, now look, you can call Tommy and he'll talk to you just like I would talk to you. And he'll tell you straight up, he's not going to lie to you. If you call him and say, hey, I got this case, he'll be like, I can't help you. You know, he'll tell you who you can call, right? So you can go to www.davenportfirm.com or you can call his office at 318-445-9696. Now listen, this is not a paid commercial, people. I'm doing this because I believe in this dude. I've seen him work. I've worked with him on murder cases. I worked with him on every kind of case, drug cases, child sex cases, whatever. But also have seen what he did for me on the civil side. And if you need a lawyer, or if you need to talk to a lawyer and ask questions and get pointed in the right directions, then you need to call Thomas Davenport, 318-445-9696. He is not geographically constricted. I mean, he can go anywhere. He can practice anywhere, and you need to use him. If you have unfortunately, there's no good reason to get a lawyer, right? Nobody wants a lawyer, period. But if you have to have one, you call Thomas Davenport, 318-445-9696. You might get Miss Kylie on the phone. She runs his office. She's a sweetheart too. But just tell her what you need and Tommy will call you back. All right. So LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. Y'all know your jam if you want to be an organ donor and you're from Chicago. And you don't have to be from Louisiana. You can go to lopa.org, fill out the form, become an organ donor, be a hero. Go to YouTube, check out Shane McBride and Missy Jules' YouTube channel. They're doing episodes every week. And
I was a guest on their show, and they just have so much more information on LOPA than what I have. And the main thing is LOPA just doesn't help people with organ transplants. They help these families survive. It's a nonprofit, saving lives every day. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. Until next time, or wherever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
When the wolf is at your door, your running's over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down on Murder Bayou. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real O'Reilly.
You've got questions? O'Reilly Auto Parts has answers. Need a pro you can trust? We've got that too. No matter what you need, our professional parts people have the training and expertise to help you do things right. Deep automotive knowledge. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly.